what are you doing, Doc?
I need fuel.
Give me fuel, take a fly, send me trace it out of sight.
Now, here are your hosts, John Eddie Jr. and Tom Tuttle.
Welcome back to Fantasy Fuel. We are down to 4 teams in the actual NFL postseason, but we've got a long way before fantasy starts back up again. So we're going to have to pick some things to talk about, and I think we're going to mostly talk about the teams that played in one of the most surprising games of the weekend, Titans and Ravens. What a game that was. It was an amazing start, and it really just kind of kept on going.
It was a crazy, crazy game, but I tell you what, the two quarterbacks that play in that game are going to be very big keys to next year and when it comes to fantasy football. So I wouldn't mind starting there if you wouldn't mind starting
Of course. We can talk about Lamar Jackson. We've talked about Ryan Tannehill before. We don't need to go too in-depth on him. But because of his performances in the playoffs, we have to at least go there. Because he has, less than 200 yards of passing in 2 playoff wins?
Right.
While Derrick Henry has just been rolling over people. So I don't know if it's an indication of what's ahead for next season for Tannehill as much as it's been working with Derrick Henry.
Well, I think Tannehill, first of all, he's going to be on the Titans. There's no question in my mind. I already discussed that last week. Second, I think with him, he's going to have a successful season next year. Now, he's not going to get 40 points per game every single time, but I would assume he's either going to get, and this is where it's hard to predict things, but I assume he's going to either get overdrafted or underdrafted. And that's a good thing. If he's overdrafted, so be it. Let it happen. Underdrafted, that's a value. And with Lamar Jackson, it's 100% going to be overdrafted. I hate to say it. I think he's going to be stellar still, but there's no question to me he's going to be the first or second quarterback taken off the board next year. And the other guy will probably be Mahomes, because after what we just saw in this last game,
we'll get into that in the other podcast
drafted.
we do.
Yeah.
Nope. Tannehill is looking great. He's at least going to get franchise tagged. I think they want to give him a long-term contract.
Yeah.
But they have to be scared a little bit because of the years in Miami where he was probably just wasting away under terrible coaching and management. So he'll be back there no matter what. Whether we see the same type of offense is a big question. Derrick Henry, as great as he has been, and we'll get into some of his numbers in a little bit, I don't think he can keep this up for a full 16-game season. He has hit his stride right now, and it's at the perfect time. It looks weird. The 9-7 Titans are playing for a chance to go to the Super Bowl.
Right.
It looks weird, but their record is actually a lot worse than what they played the last 10 games of the season once Tannehill took over. I mean, if they would have lost any one of those games down the stretch, like the one against the Chargers where they had the goal line stands, they would have lost that one. They wouldn't have made the playoffs. I mean, there's teams like the Jets just looking like we could have been 9-7. We could have been in the same spot that the Titans were in. So they got hot at the right time, just like, years ago with the Giants, kind of rolling in as the 6th seed or whatever and just making a postseason run. And we're seeing it again. Maybe this is the year that another 6th seed makes it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'm not putting anything past them right now. The defense looked amazing. And, we can get into that to the next episode when we talk about the actual NFL. But, wow, that was such a great display of football all around, and I wasn't expecting it.
Nope. So what do you think we can expect from Tannehill next year with the weapons he's got? Obviously, Derrick
Brown.
Henry is going to need to get
Derrick Henry,
re-signed and play as well as he did. And if all that happens, do you think we get another top 5 quarterback performance out of him?
Well, like I said, I think it was last week. If you put it on average, he wasn't just top 5. He was the number 2 quarterback in the league for fantasy football behind Lamar Jackson. So this last week, we just had Lamar Jackson against Tannehill, and Tannehill prevailed as far as the win, but Lamar Jackson still got, I believe, more fantasy points.
Oh, yeah, he got plenty more fantasy points, but neither one of them were great as far as quarterback on their football team.
Right.
Tannehill had a couple of great plays, but he only needed to do so much, and they still were going to get that win.
I think, and this is where it's, like I said, it's hard to project where Tannehill's going to go, because he's had such a great end of this season, and the fact, if they make the Super Bowl, I mean, everything's going to be, wow, look at Tannehill, look at Henry, and both of these guys are going to be projected higher. Maybe not, Henry's not going to be higher than what he's supposed to be. He's going to fall wherever he is, and that's probably worth it. But with Tannehill, if he's in the top 5 for drafting, that's a problem. He shouldn't be that high. I don't know if he's going to be in the top 5 next year, but that's the only real weapon I see that he has is Brown. There's not a lot else there that I can absolutely trust in. And I know they got some offseason work to do to get some of that more trusting receivers for him, but he's done really well this last season. I want him to be extremely successful, because I think this was one of these things that me and you both kind of predicted that he was going to come in and be successful. We didn't know he was going to have this kind of fantasy.
Yeah, we didn't
success.
know fantasy success was going to
Right.
be off the charts like it was, but we knew the Titans were going to be a much better team with him.
Right.
Now, the problem is what we see working in the NFL playoffs could very well work during the regular season if Derrick Henry is fully healthy, the offensive line is clicking, and he might only average 15 to 20 passes a game. And when you only have that many, the opportunity for fantasy points gets a lot less.
Well, I'll say this. Against the Patriots in the playoffs, they did what they had to do to beat the Patriots. They controlled the time of possession, and they said, this is how we're going to beat you.
It was a very well-coached game.
Oh, very well coached. And the same kind of with the Ravens, where their defense was outstanding, so they just kind of took it to the Ravens in all sorts of ways. But they didn't go crazy passing the ball because they didn't feel they needed to. They needed to control the clock, because them two teams, you give them any type of time to come back, and the likelihood of that happening is higher.
Right.
Now, obviously, the Ravens kind of choked all in all, and Tom Brady is Tom Brady. So I don't think you're going to run into that many types of games in the regular season to where Tannehill isn't throwing the ball a significant amount of time. Now, I understand Derrick Henry is going to get his touches. He will, because he's deserved it. But they're going to make it more balanced than just Henry, because Tannehill is going to be extremely successful again this next year, but I just don't know if he's going to be top 5 caliber. That's why I really, really want to tell everybody, do not go crazy in the drafts. When you take Tannehill as the 5th overall quarterback, it might not happen.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have success, but I don't know if it's going to be that great.
I think just because of his past, he will not get overdrafted unless you're in a league where it's just, what is the last thing anybody has done for their team, and that's all they can see is, well, he was really good last year, so I'm taking him this year. But if you have any football knowledge, any fantasy knowledge over the past 5 or 6 years, you're not going to overdraft Ryan Tannehill, and it'll be just another one of those quarterbacks. He might be the next, like, Phillip Rivers, where he lasts till the 9th and 10th and 11th round every single draft, and he is just fine. So you can wait and take a guy like Ryan Tannehill, and hopefully he just puts up those consistent numbers, and you're fine because you waited until you already had 3 backup running backs before you took your quarterback. That would be a successful season for Ryan Tannehill.
I'm going to predict something.
Oh, here we go.
Before the game obviously starts this next week, they are either going to have to do one of two things: completely dominate on defense, like they just did, or they're going to have to score a ton of points. And I'm leaning towards they're going to have to score a ton of points because Mahomes in that offense, I don't know if the defense can stop them. That is just insane to me. So we're going to see what Tannehill can actually do this week. I really believe it's going to be a high-scoring game, and if Tannehill can't put the numbers up, we're going to find out. And then I think this game will dictate how people draft him, at least closer to that area.
Yes. If the Titans are going to win, they're going to have to score a lot of points.
Yes.
I don't know a defense out there right now that could stop Patrick Mahomes. And
the thing is I said that about Jackson.
yes.
I said I didn't know a defense out there that can stop this guy, and they did it. Now Jackson obviously put a little bit of his own little spin into that.
Yes.
Fumbles and whatnot, but that defense just took it to him, and I think he got flustered. He didn't know what to do because he's still young, and he's going to have to learn some of these things. What happens when the defense does this? Well, I just think there's no way you can do that against Mahomes. Andy Reid is smarter than that, although
Right.
I've seen him choke plenty of times, and you've seen it firsthand.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this is the year for the Chiefs. If they're going to win, if the Titans are going to win, they have to just outscore. I mean, that's the dumbest thing you can say. It's like a John Madden quote. But the team that scores the most is going to win the game. Well, but they have to outscore. I mean, that's just how it's going to be. It can't be a defensive game because it's just not going to happen.
And maybe the best thing for that team is that they haven't had to pass at all in the last 2 playoff games.
Right.
So
Right.
it could just play into their hand where they have no film in the last 2 games over their passing attack, and the Chiefs don't know what to expect. They kind of just go all in on Derrick Henry, and maybe Ryan Tannehill just explodes.
I think, you could be right. And I think this is going to be a very, very exciting game to watch. And when it comes down to fantasy football, just watch the key players and see how they perform, because that's going to dictate how they are drafted in the next year.
But back to fantasy-wise, we have to talk about Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
He had a really bad game.
Yeah.
Now, maybe this will be on the minds of everybody when they draft next season. Maybe he'll slip a little bit, and maybe he'll still be a little bit of a value. I don't think so, because there's always that guy that's, I got to take that quarterback that went off the rails last year, and he's still probably going to get drafted in the 2nd and 3rd, 4th round. I mean, he's not going to slip past the 4th round in most leagues, I'm guessing.
No.
Just like Mahomes was in like the 2nd and 3rd round, and Deshaun Watson.
It was ridiculous. And, everybody thought, oh, it's worth it. It's worth it. He's going to give you this amount of points. Well, Mahomes really didn't give you that amount of points. He did fine. It wasn't like he was terrible. I mean, let's see. Mahomes was actually 6th overall. I thought he was a little bit higher than that. But Jameis Winston was higher, which is unbelievable. That's somebody we could talk about.
Right.
Maybe not today, but in the future. But yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, he did miss a couple games, obviously, with that super scary knee injury that we were all like, oh, he's done for the season.
Right.
But then he came back and he performed extremely well and was pretty consistent. Came right back with a 41-point game, and then he never scored 40 the rest of the year in fantasy football anyway, because the season ends week 16.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he averaged 28 points per game, at least in the flag league. I know it's probably low in other leagues, but 28 points is good. And if you're looking and want to compare that to what he did last year, I mean, it's not close. I mean, Lamar Jackson got 37 points per game this year. That's not going to happen next year.
No, probably
as much
not.
as I would love to say that. The the chances of that happening is so slim. You just can't expect that to happen.
All right, let's go back to Derrick Henry for just a minute.
Absolutely.
Because of his insane last, I don't even know how many games, 7, 8 games. It's been like he's had over 1,000 yards in those 7 games. Now, here's a list of the most rushing yards in a game this season. This is the top 6. Number 1, Leonard Fournette at 225 yards. Number 2, Derrick Henry, 211 yards, week 17 to clinch a playoff spot. Number 3, Derrick Henry, 195 yards in the second round of the playoffs. Number 4, Saquon Barkley, 189. Number 5, Derrick Henry, 188 yards. Number 6, Derrick Henry, 182 yards in the first round of the playoffs. 4 of the top 6 highest rushing yard games this season were Derrick Henry, and it's all been in the last couple months, and it's insane. I don't know how he can keep it up. I mean, he needs 25 yards to have the most yards rushing in a single postseason already, and he's only played 2 games.
Right.
So
yeah, he's just. I have this feeling he's going to be top 5. I mean, if he's not top 5 when it comes to your drafts, there's a problem because he's just been so dominant. And these last few games are going to push him to the top 5. Now, I know there's some people saying, should it be number 1? No, he's not going to be number 1. Don't do that. It's going to be Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
Still don't. I'm going to endorse Christian McCaffrey until Christian McCaffrey sucks. And that's, in my opinion, going to be a while. But Derrick Henry absolutely he's gonna rival for that top spot because I don't think Christian McCaffrey is going to have the year he had. There's going to be hopefully a better quarterback situation for the Panthers, and I don't think Christian McCaffrey is going to be absolutely nuts like he was this year. I think he's going to be great. I think he's worthy of the number 1 pick, but Derrick Henry is going to rival that, and because he's going to get a lot of touch, he's going to get a lot of receptions and touchdowns. It's going to be a good year for Derrick Henry, and boy, as much as we say it all the time, it is so fulfilling to be one of the only few people to actually say, go get Derrick Henry because he's going to have a great year.
Yep. We tried saying it, and I got him in as many leagues as I could. Again, I felt dumb not speaking up at the expo.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard when the other 40 people there are all making fun of Derrick Henry, and you're like, well, I can't.
These
go
guys
against
are good
40
too.
people. I know they know what they're talking about, and I understand why they kind of want to, roast Derrick Henry. But I was so sure, but I just couldn't speak my mind. So maybe I'll learn from that, and next year when I have that gut instinct, like the year before with Devontae Adams, I was like, he's going to be the number. Well, I didn't say the number 1. I figured he'd be a top 3, and he ended up being number 1. And then this last year with Derrick Henry, I said as long as he can keep the pace that he was on, and he got more carries like he did, he would lead the league in rushing, and he did. Next year, that'll be a different story. We'll have to see what they do in the offseason. I'm not going to go out on the limb and say he's going to lead the league in rushing next year, but maybe I will when it gets closer to preseason football in 8 months. It's a long ways away.
Maybe Lamar Jackson will lead the league in rushing.
That would be interesting. That would be very,
That'd be
very
crazy.
You want to predict that one? That is all on
I'm
you.
not doing that.
Oh, all right. Well, let's see. There is a new hire in Cleveland.
Okay.
Kevin Stefanski, the Vikings offensive coordinator, is going to be their new head coach. Does that mean anything in terms of where you might draft OBJ, Nick Chubb, Jarvis Landry, Baker Mayfield? Any of those guys?
Not really, because I look at that team and I look at what they did this last year, and the same type of game plan to me is what's going to come from him. Because the Vikings, if you look, they tried to run with Cook, and if it worked, it worked. They went with it, and Chubb would be the guy if that's going to happen. But then if it doesn't work, they're going to pass, even if it doesn't, even if it's not successful. And that's why I can't stand, and I know a part of the reason you can't stand Kirk Cousins, because he gets all these crazy points, and we know he's just not that great. I mean, I was telling my friends they were predicting that the Vikings were going to win this week against the Niners, and I'm just like, you're crazy. You're out of your mind to think that. And I said there's only one way. There's only one way the Vikings will win this game, and it's if Cook goes crazy and they can't stop him. He has to have at least 70 yards in the first half rushing for them to win this game. He wasn't even close to that, and it was still a close game. But I texted him back, said he didn't have 70 yards. They will not win because they're gonna have to rely on Kirk Cousins, and Kirk made too many mistakes in that game, and it cost them.
Yep, that's pretty much, I don't even have to piggyback off that. We've been saying it all year. Yeah, Kirk won a couple of big games, but this was the biggest game of his career by far, and what did they put up, like 10 points, something like that? Right. So it was what it was. It was the Kirk Cousins that I know and love.
Okay, think about it. Okay, Mayfield, Kirk, do you see a big difference between the two?
No. I told you earlier in the year, Baker Mayfield is the next Kirk Cousins.
Okay. Chubb and Cook. Now, there could be a difference there. I understand it. But is there a huge difference between them?
A huge difference? No.
Okay. OBJ and Landry, compare that to Diggs and Thielen.
It's a lot of the same types of weapons.
That's what you're going to get with the same offensive coordinator. So trust me on this, guys. They're going to have success. It's whatever you got out of Diggs and Thielen. Well, I'm not going to say Thielen because Thielen had his issues this year. That's probably what you're going to get out of OBJ and Landry. I still think Landry's going to have a good year. I think he's just a catch machine.
I mean, Landry and Thielen are on the same type of player where they're going to get a lot of looks when they're healthy, and they're going to catch a lot of balls. It's not going to be, high yards after catch or anything like that for either one of those guys. And Diggs and OBJ are the big play guys. Mm-hmm. And I was just looking at something earlier, and I believe it was like the last 8 games that Dalvin Cook played, he was under 4 yards per carry. Now, I know he was coming off of a little bit of an injury in a few of those games, so who knows how much that, hurt his chances. But that doesn't bode well going into next year for him. Now, the Vikings are going to have a different offensive coordinator. That could be a good thing for him. But here's the thing. I know I asked you about the Browns, and we've gone into the Vikings. It was a perfect segue because you were 100% right. It was almost the same type of players on offense. Alexander Mattison is going to be somebody you want to own next year.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, the guy, I watched him in preseason, I'm just like, who is that guy?
Yes.
That guy is electric, and he's a stud. It's too bad that he's behind a guy that is a stud. But he's going to have some fantasy value next year, and I really do think that at some point he's going to be it's hard to say because when you're behind a guy like Cook, what can you do? I mean, you just got to roll with it. But he's got so much talent, and you can see it when he runs the ball.
And everybody knows I love Dalvin Cook, and I had him in a couple of leagues this year, and he did great for me. But as soon as he went down, that's when the rest of my team started going down. Our team in the Prime League and the Content Creator League had great teams, and they just started getting hurt and choking in the playoffs. I don't know what else to say. But Dalvin Cook is not a guy I am going to take in the first round next year, and that's where you're going to have to take him. But I'm not doing it.
Nope, I'm not. I won't do it either unless if something changes. But I don't foresee that happening in the future. But yeah, Madison's somebody you're going to get a good value on. And if Cook goes down, my gosh, I'm telling you, he's a league winner if Cook isn't playing.
He very well could be. If you do have to take Dalvin Cook. If you're at the 5th or 6th overall spot and the big running backs like CMC and Zeke and Saquon and Derrick Henry are gone, you might have to take Dalvin Cook if you maybe Michael Thomas is gone too. And then after that, it's kind of like wide open on that next tier of players. So if you do, you're like, I have to take a running back. Dalvin Cook is still sitting there. He was a championship running back the first half of the season last year. You have to handcuff him with Alexander Madison, and you're going to have to do it early because everybody knows what Dalvin Cook brings to the table, and half the time it's an injury.
Can I say something about Zeke?
All right.
Real quick. All right. So I've had conversations with people that know about
Here we
football. Here's the thing with Zeke, okay? He's still going to have a successful year. I'm not going to take him in the top 3. It's not going to happen. And I'll tell you why. Mike McCarthy. Now, Mike McCarthy, just in the last few years that was the coach of the Green Bay Packers, he did not run the ball enough, not even close to enough. Now, he has Zeke, who I assume he thinks is better than what Aaron Jones is. So he might decide to run more than what he did when he had Aaron Jones in the gang. But it wasn't just Aaron Jones. It goes back even further than that. But Zeke will fall some. I think it was the number 2 overall this year behind Christian McCaffrey. Maybe in some leagues behind Aaron Jones. I'm not sure, but I'm telling you something. It's not going to be. I almost want to slide him out of my top 5. I have to do my rankings, and we'll see what happens when I get there. But it's really something I think is going to hurt the Cowboys more than it's going to help the Cowboys, and I think it might hurt Zeke unless they actually throw the ball to Zeke a lot, and that might actually help him. But when it comes to running the ball, the Cowboys may be behind by 10 points, and McCarthy's going to say, well, we're going to have to pass every down now. I don't think that's the plan that will keep Zeke a fantasy stud. I mean, he's still going to – I don't want to say that because I still think he's going to be a stud, and I don't think he's not going to have value, but he's not going to be that super stud. Put it that way.
I kind of agree. I think he's still worth a top 3 pick next year only because they are going to be throwing a ton. Zeke very well could be what Saquon Barkley was the year before and catch 80 balls out of the backfield. It could very easily be that.
When's the last time a Packers running back caught 80 balls out of the backfield?
I'm not saying they're going to target him or they're going to call his number and these pass plays are going to go to the running back. But screen game is going to come back in Dallas, I think, with Mike McCarthy there. And if he's dialing up passes, Dak Prescott is going to dump the ball off a lot. He's going to have to. I don't know if Jason Witten's going to be back. I don't know if they're going to be able to sign Amari Cooper. If Michael Gallup is the number 1 there, it's going to be tough going for the wide receivers, and there's going to be a lot of balls for those short and intermediate routes, and Zeke could very well get, like I said, like 80 catches next year. I'm not saying it's 100%, but I could definitely see that happen.
I'd rather not risk it with him for me because that's just kind of where it is. I think he's going to have success, like I said, but there's so much risk in my eyes with him because of McCarthy. I'm seeing Christian McCaffrey, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette even, Nick Chubb. I mean, Barkley could get right back on the same page. Mark Ingram wasn't terrible this last year. Shoot, somebody young like Miles Sanders for the Philadelphia Eagles. These are all
we'll do that next
things.
Week.
Well, sure, that's fine. But I'm just saying these are all positive things out of these guys that I can see coming up in the future where Zeke, I just see falling back. So to me, the value doesn't stay where it was. I think it falls back just a smidge. Not saying I wouldn't have him on my team.
Now, that's probably going to benefit anybody that has your same line of thought because he's still going to go in the top 3, 4, 5, no matter what league you're in. He's still going to go there. So if you are sure that he's going to drop off, that can only benefit you if you are behind the order and you can take, well, I had Henry ranked above Zeke, and Zeke went before my pick, so perfect. I'll take Derrick Henry. I mean, if that's the way it goes, that could benefit you greatly by not having a high pick in the first round next year.
And it's not just snake drafts and stuff like that. I mean, if you're doing an auction draft, maybe you don't pay so much for them because you just say, okay, this guy's going to go all in on him. I'm going to back off. I'm going to go get Derrick Henry, and I can pay the close to the same price, maybe less than that, and have a better value because I do believe he will be a better value next year.
Now, before we end this portion of our podcast, I just have to say I need to cut back on the leagues that I did this year, but I really want to do the league that I did last year, the Superflex auction draft. I want to do that same exact setup and see where those guys go this year, because I probably, if you look back at what I paid for them, what they're going to go for this year is going to be outrageous, and there is zero chance I could have gotten all those guys on the same team for this coming season. Because you're talking about Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, Aaron Jones. I got them all on the same team this last year, and Aaron Jones and Derrick Henry were steals compared to what they ended up to at the end of the season. So we will talk about some rookie running backs from this year next week. That was a great idea because there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to unwrap in these guys, especially down the stretch. Some of them were really good, and some of them kind of faded away. But we'll talk about that next week. That's perfect. Now we're going to be doing our NFL, all NFL show here in just a minute. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Anybody that's on Twitch, thank you for watching. We appreciate it. And, stick around. We'll be doing just NFL in just a minute.